Welcome, everybody. How y'all doing out there? This is The Side Jawn. I am your host, Dennis Holmes. I am here with my co-host, Sharon Mullen, the Chocolate Girl. How's everything, Chocolate?
How's everything in your neighborhood?
Things are doing well in my neighborhood. I'm loving everything that's going on. We got a special guest in the building. The newest member of the Memphis Grizzlies beat writing team.
Yes,
Michael Cole is in the house, ladies and gentlemen, and he's the youngest beat writer in NBA in the country in the NBA. Youngest beat writer.
All right. Youngin. I love it. What's
going on, y'all?
Welcome to Michael Cole. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to definitely give you a shout out, man, because when I came out Memphis, I ain't even gonna lie, you probably ain't noticed it, but I was nervous as hell out Memphis, boy. And I wasn't nervous about the gang violence in Memphis. I was nervous that just little dumb shit was gonna happen to me, like a snake was gonna pop up, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, somebody was gonna steal my luggage, just little dumb shit. No gang violence.
So wait a minute. So you were nervous just about being there, not about the event. I've being there.
I've never really traveled by myself.
Yeah.
Okay.
He came to Memphis.
Yeah, and I came to Memphis, and let me give another shout out to Miles from Archer League Sports, because he's the connection, and I ain't gonna lie, something about Miles, man, he know how to talk that talk. He get anybody on the show. I'll be like, Miles, what you telling people? I got a cancer or something? So they come on here, because you get anybody on the show. Like, I'm like, what you telling people out there? I lost a kidney or something? He said, then I'm getting them on here, man. I can get them. Yeah. And I met Philly DMC last year during the pandemic. I mean, we hit it off, man. I've been reading his articles and watching his movements and everything. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I love everything that's going on with you, and I appreciate you being on this show. But what
you telling me is this is Philly DMC. I've been knowing you all this time, and you talking about Philly DMC, and I'm just now knowing that this is who you're talking about.
This is Philly DMC. We named him Philly DMC.
I don't know, should I bow or curtsy or salute? I don't know what to do, but man, you all I know is you all that. That's all I'm gonna say. You all that in a bag of chips. I'm glad to have you on the show. This is great. This is great, Dennis. Thank you so much for bringing him on the show today.
Yeah, Philly DMC, man. You would catch him anywhere, and I literally mean anywhere. Like, he had an interview. One of the last interviews I think I seen with him. He had an interview with Sylvester Stallone. And Sylvester Stallone had as a matter of fact, tell us about that interview. Tell us about that interview with Sylvester Stallone.
Wow.
That was one of my last big projects in Philly. I went down and Sylvester Stallone put out another version of Rocky IV with a director's cut, and he had a premiere showing in Philly on Thursday night, an invite only type event, and with a red carpet, and I believe there were like a couple people from the movie who came out. Then there were some celebrities in the building, some boxers, people from Chicago, LA, the West Coast, all came in. But yeah, I got a couple minutes with him as he walked in the room, and he talked to the media a little bit, and we talked about, just the new director's cut that he re-released, I believe last month or 2 months ago now. But yeah, that was dope. That was dope. One of my favorite interviews for sure.
Now, what I want to know is, because a lot of people here, they listening, they entertained, they want to know, how did you become the youngest beat writer for the Memphis Grizzlies? You got to let them know exactly where you went to school at to get this, writing and everything down, fact that you wanted to be a journalist.
What I tell you, DMC, what I tell you. Here we go. Wait a minute. Is Buck Flair listening? We got to make sure Buck Flair is listening. Go ahead.
University of Tennessee in Knoxville. That's where I went. That's where I went. Vol country. Go Vols.
All right.
That is right.
Now
Now, what
tell
was your?
people why. Tell people why that means something to you, Dennis.
Oh,
Tell
I'm
the
a
people.
Tennessee. I'm a Tennessee Volunteers fan.
Yep.
And I've been that way for a while. I like the football team, the basketball team, man, but the football team, I really love the football team. And one of my goals is to make sure that I get down there to the game and tailgate on the boat. That's one of my goals, to go down there and do that.
And man, make it happen. Make it happen. Make sure you go around homecoming time, like in November, first week of November.
Okay.
Amazing.
I'm hitting you up when I get down there. I'll let you know that.
Now that I'm in Memphis, I'll probably be going to homecoming probably every year. So
Okay.
every year that I can. Well, I'm on an NBA beat now, so I gotta factor that in too.
Yeah.
October. Anytime October comes around, I have to shut that down. But yep.
All right.
That's what's up. All right. Now, what was it like going to the University of Tennessee?
Man, it was. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it was different. It was kind of my first experience away from home, so I needed it, and I got that that culture shock that people talk about, being a black kid from the South, from Memphis, and Memphis is all I ever knew. I didn't go to many other places, and I didn't take a lot of trips like that. So Memphis is all I ever knew, and inner city Memphis is all I ever knew. So I was just around whole lot of black people all the time, and that was what I knew for the most part. So when I got to UT, and it was 20,000 plus students there, and it was, I believe, like 8%, 7% black kids at that time, with most of them coming from Memphis, Nashville, and a little sprinkle of like Atlanta. It was a culture shock, man, because it's like now I'm in a classroom and it's either just me or it's 2 or 3 of us, and it's a bunch of people that don't look like you, and I just hadn't had that experience ever before in my life. So with that came some, it was different, but you learn that there's some similarities as well with the Southern culture. With we all eat the same food, we talk similar in a way, but it was different. But overall, it was like, just in terms of just the business part of it, it was a great opportunity for me to go to a SEC school that had a bunch of networking opportunities for me. Whereas like when I was a student, I was able to write for the student newspaper, and that put me in rooms with some of the best college writers in the South, when I would cover football games or basketball games and things like that. And I got to really know those people and build those relationships. And I had access to, some top-notch equipment, like the MacBooks and in the libraries that we had access to, and the recording studios where I was able to record my own podcast. And we had access to all this, really nice stuff. So that was the best part of it. Just the whole lifestyle part, it was hit and miss. I met some really great people. I made some really, really strong relationships at UT. It was an adjustment for me, but it was a great 4 years, because it helped set me up, to get where I am now.
So now, what was your major while you was there?
Sports journalism.
You ain't had no minor?
Okay, so I ended up minoring in Africana studies and film studies and film. So basically, I didn't plan on minoring in either one, but over the course of my time at UT, I just picked up certain little interesting classes that I'd like to take. Like as a journalism major, you have to take what do you call it? Like you have to take like a Greek studies class, an African studies class, like a cultural class. And of course I chose African studies, right? Because most relatable. So I jumped in the African studies class, and I'm learning all this stuff. I'm like, hold up, I want to take one more of these. And it's like, right, I'm gonna take just one more. And then my professor was like, well, at this point, you only one away from a minor. I was like, well, why not? And then the same thing with film studies. I took a regular film studies class that I had to take. And then as a part of my journalism, I took a lot of videography classes. So I took a couple of those, and he was like, you only need one more for the minor. So okay, so I ended up being a double minor just by not trying. But so yeah, that's kind of how it happened for me.
You hear that out there, kids? He became a double minor on accident. Just to let y'all know that, all right? He became a double minor on accident. Just let y'all know. Go to school. And I used to preach, and I used to be one of the ones I didn't want to go to school. But now that I'm older, I realize the importance of school and studies and everything. Now, when you was in college, who were some of the athletes that you interviewed?
At UT?
At UT.
At UT. Let's see. My freshman and sophomore years, I didn't get to do much like of the big players, you would say, like on the football and basketball, because I didn't get to those sports. I had to get going just in this sports journalism business a little bit, and kind of get my chops started covering like swimming and diving, and soccer was my first beat. Then I covered baseball, then I covered softball, and then in my junior year was when I finally started to cover football and basketball. So Alvin Kamara, Jalen Hurd, Josh Dobbs, those guys graduated right before they left right before I got on that job. But my first year it was at the time one of Tennessee's worst football seasons. It was the year Bush Jones got fired. So that was the year I started covering the football team. Marquez Callaway is probably the best player that I covered. You
ain't do Jawan Jennings? That's what I thought you would have got.
Jawan Jennings, yep. So Jawan Jennings and Marquez Callaway were like, Jawan was the fan favorite because he
caught the pass.
He caught the Hail Mary. He was the tough guy. People just love Jawan. But I'd say Marquez Callaway, who plays wide receiver for the Saints, probably the top receiver option right now. It was the best receiver that I covered. Outside of Marquez, you had a couple guys on defense that have got to the league. Emmanuel Mosley, starting defensive back for the 49ers. Yeah. I covered him. And a couple more. Basketball, it was a little more, because the year I covered Tennessee was the year they went from being picked 13th in the SEC in the preseason to regular season champs. So Grant Williams, Admiral Schofield, Jordan Bone, and let's see who Yeast Pond, who plays for the Grizzlies now. All those guys, but Grant Williams is probably the most notable former SEC player of the year. So yeah.
That's cool. I thought you interviewed Trey Smith. That's what I was thinking.
Trey Smith, I did. Yeah. Trey Smith,
he's offensive lineman from right now he plays for Kansas City Chiefs, and Jawan Jennings and Emmanuel Mosley are both on the 49ers. For those listeners out there. Yeah, right. I do know my team. I love my team. Just let y'all know that. All right.
I see.
Yeah. Now, when did you get? When did you finish college? Got your degree. Wait. Before I ask that, did you have a scholarship?
I did.
Awesome.
So it's crazy. I can go ahead and just tell y'all a story. I'm gonna try to go through it real fast. Because going to Tennessee wasn't really my plan. I've told this story a few times, but it just show you, how things really work in your favor. It's one of my favorite stories, just like about myself and how I've gotten on this journey. Because when I was in high school, the kids used to take trips to the colleges and stuff like that, and our counselor at Overton High School presented us the opportunity to go visit the University of Tennessee. I didn't really care too much for Tennessee, growing up a Memphis kid, like I didn't care too much for Tennessee. So it was like, my interest in going on that trip was, it was on my birthday week. I can get out of school, and we knew like it wasn't just a trip for our schools, it was a trip for like the city. So schools around the city would be going. So I'm thinking, it's going to be a lot of girls here. So I get to get out of school.
Okay.
It's going to be a lot of girls here. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be my birthday week. Everybody end up singing happy birthday to me on the bus. So, it played out just how I wanted it to play out. But basically, when I went on that trip, we visited the campus and, did all the things that they do on the tour. And when I tell you, I didn't remember anything from it because I didn't plan on going to UT, right? It was just not at the top of my list. Ole Miss was a big option for me. Mississippi State was another option for me. And then there were local schools like MTSU and some HBCUs that I wanted to go play baseball at because I played baseball in high school as well. But journalism was, my focus. Like with some of those other schools, I didn't choose them because the journalism program wasn't up to par. But Ole Miss is where I was going. So on graduation day in May of 2015, I walked across the stage and they said Michael Cole, and they said University of Mississippi, as in I was going to Ole Miss. And if you go back and listen to it, you hear me walk across the stage, you're going to hear University of Mississippi. So it was a little bit after my graduation. I had a friend named Stu Boyd, who was going to University of Tennessee. And he was like telling me about this scholarship that he had got. And he was like, you didn't get it? Because we both applied to UT, in like November. And he was like, you didn't get it? And I was like, no. So what happened for me is I got accepted to UT in October or November of 2014, but they accepted me to go through like a summer program. And it's my last year in high school, and I don't want to go there that bad. I'm going to a summer program so it's like, nah, I'm good on Tennessee. So I just threw them off. I never thought about going to Tennessee again, and I started pursuing all these other colleges. So fast forwarding back to May after graduation, he says, I got this scholarship, full ride. And I'm like, and he's like, you should meet the requirements. Like, we're close friends. So, like my ACT score and my grades look like, he was like, you definitely should meet these requirements. And I'm like, huh? So I look at he sends me the scholarship. So basically it's one of those scholarships where if you just Google Tennessee scholarships, you won't find it. You got to do a little digging. So he tells me you should meet the requirements. So I look up the scholarship. It's like, okay, grades, okay, this, okay, single parent household, hold up. Let me file for an appeal because they accepted me into a summer program. So I go back, I filed for the appeal probably end of May. And at this time, I'm waiting to hear back from Ole Miss from my final offer of how much money I was going to get. I knew it wasn't going to be a full ride, but they were going to give me some money to go there. And it was like, that's where I was planning on going. It was only an hour and a half from home. So it's like, that's perfect. But Tennessee was 6 hours away. So basically it was like the first or second week in July. My appeal got overturned and I got a full ride to go to UT. So I didn't get the full orientation experience. I had to go to like a quick 1 day orientation because, and I had to just get whatever classes I can get because it was like middle to end of July and it happened real fast. I had like a trunk party 2 weeks later and I was gone. So yep, that's kind of the backstory on how I got to UT.
Now that is cool that you waited, got that full scholarship. That is cool. Now, when did you end college? Was it what, 2019?
May 2019 was my final semester.
And so by that time you were interning at other places,
right?
To try to get a sports journalist job. Now, what are these places you were interning at?
Well, in college, man, I worked hard. I interned my junior year at the Tri-State Defender in Memphis. So I came back to Memphis my junior year where I was able to help with the Grizzlies draft coverage. And then by the time my senior year, winter break semester came, I was able to cover a few Grizzlies games and eventually the All-Star game in February of my senior year in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I did that, but I put myself out there by going to all the local papers in Knoxville. So you had the News Sentinel, which is the big paper in Knoxville, and then you have the surrounding area where you have the Maryville Daily Times, which is probably 20 miles away. Then you have Roane County News, which is probably 30 miles away. And I get in my Honda Accord, my 01 Honda Accord, drive 45 minutes to the middle of Yeehaw country where there ain't nobody that look like me on a Friday night or on a Wednesday afternoon to cover a middle school basketball game where I'd be one of probably the only other black people in gym, probably be a couple people that were on the court and their parents. So, I just put myself out there like that. I think my senior year, I interned at 4 places where I was working for. I had 4 jobs. I was working for the student newspaper. I was working for 2 of the local papers, Maryville Daily Times and the Roane County News, when I was just, do high school and middle school coverage for them. And I was working for Win Radio in Memphis, Tennessee, a radio that let me have my own show, Ice Cold Sports News. So basically, whereas my senior year, that's when I got my big break. That's when I got my really big internship that has really plateaued me into, the opportunities that I've gotten in my career. It's called Sports Journalism Institute. It's the top, without a doubt, the top minority opportunity, the top opportunity for minority students and in the journalism industry. And for my money, it's the top journalism internship out there, period. So basically what SJI does is they select 12 to 15 of the best college journalists in the countries from minority backgrounds, and they place us all at Walter Cronkite School of Journalism at Arizona State. And we go down there for a week boot camp where we just digging deep into the writing, into journalism, into broadcast journalism, into every section of journalism it is. And then they section us off into internships for the rest of that summer. And my internship was Sports Illustrated. So
awesome.
Yeah, that was amazing. So I went to New York City, and once again, kid from the South, never left Memphis until, I never left the South until then. That was my first everything, first flight, first all of that. So I went to New York, and I was in New York for 2.5 months. Great experience. I was in the city. I was in Manhattan. I would walk 20 minutes to work, where I was surrounded by all these, people who New York is just so fast paced and everyone's in a hurry. But it was Sports Journalism Institute, and it really gives kids a great opportunity. I always recommend it to a lot of journalists in college who are coming up, because especially in sports, because it's the best opportunity out there. And just, you get to meet, when at the time I got to meet Leon Carter, who at the time was the vice president of ESPN. He's at the Athletic now. Greg Lee, who's at the Boston Globe now, who was a managing editor at the Athletic at the time I was there. And then Sandy Rosenbush, who is one of the pioneer women in the industry, who's been in the industry for a while at ESPN. And those were the 3 mentors that were put in place for us at SJI. And best opportunity out there. I got selected for it, and it's crazy because my junior year I applied, didn't get it, reapplied, kept working, took a few more opportunities my senior year. Like I said, had 4 jobs, reapplied my senior year and got it. And I interned at Sports Illustrated. That was the coolest internship I feel like you can get right out of college.
Oh, I love that.
Now that is cool. Now that's a real cool story. Now here's now how did you get from there to the Philadelphia Inquirer?
Man, it's a know people business. You gotta know people, but you gotta put in the work, and then you gotta meet people and know people. So like I said, Sports Journalism Institute really put me in some really good places. So basically those 3 people that I just named, they know everyone in the business pretty much. So when we're there for that week at camp, they're bringing in the Stephen A's, the Michael Wilbons, and just, so many. I don't even want to name, but it's so many. That's the level of people in the journalism industry that they're bringing in. And basically, when you meet all these people, then they bring in the editors who are in hiring positions and things like that. So basically, once my internship ended with Sports Illustrated, I went home for about a month, just to weigh everything over, see what my next opportunity was going to be. Then I got a call one day from one of my editors who was at Sports Journalism Institute. It's like, what you think about Philadelphia? What do you think about moving to Philadelphia? And I was like, the Inquirer? Like the Philly Inquirer? Out of college? Like that's Philly's the number 4 media market in the country. So I'm like, the Inquirer? I was like, let's go. What I gotta do? So he basically the Inquirer were looking for, a young sports journalist to fill their fellowship position. And That's how I got there. So basically, I met with them. They flew me up there for like the meetings and the interviews and all of that good stuff. And they told me, go back home and get settled in and get back up here. And I was so excited. I went home for just like a week, just packed all my stuff up, went back home for like a week, flew back up to Philly, and the rest is history, as they say. But that's kind of how it started at the Inquirer. It started as a fellowship. And it was crazy because they were kind of a little hesitant in a way, I think, on just that opportunity for a kid really young. So I think it was like the fellowship is a 2-year fellowship, but they said we'll see how the first year goes, and then we'll extend your fellowship to the second year. And I think I got there the end of September, and it was January. It didn't take the whole year. It was January, and they were like, we're extending you. So I didn't have to worry about that. And once the 2-year fellowship ended, I got extended to full time.
That's what's up. That's definitely what's up, man. Your hard work pays off, baby. And I love the fact that you came to Philly. And
most definitely.
Like I said, I got to meet you. That was beautiful. Now, what was your best article that you wrote?
Ooh. Man, the best article that I wrote, I got to give you like 2 or 3. That's tough. Okay, so I'll do one. I'll say.
No, you could do the 2 or 3. Hold up. Go ahead. We love.
So one that I really like comes off the top of my head is a story that I did on Rasheed Jordan, former 5-star basketball recruit in Philly. He's well known in like North Philly. He's called like the Prince of North Philly. He went to St. John's, had NBA talent, and got in some troubles. And got arrested, went to jail, I believe, went to prison for like 2.5 to 3 years. And he got out of prison in like December of 2019. And I believe it was a little earlier than that, but I found out in December 2019 from some people. I actually was in an Uber, and they were like, man, Rasheed Jordan's out. So I jump on it quick. I make some calls, and I get in touch with Rasheed Jordan, and he's like, I'm trying to get back to the highest level of basketball. He's trying to get back overseas and get professional basketball opportunities. So basically that was my story. It was special for me because someone like Rasheed Jordan is someone that, in national media, he gets stepped on when he makes that big mistake, and you never hear about him again unless it's from, the negative perspective. And it was good for me to cover all of that. Whereas I told the full story. Whereas yes, he was arrested. He was in a bad position. It was a robbery, and he spent this time in prison. But I wanted to tell this. I wanted to open readers up to another side of him. Whereas he spent all this time in prison. What were his thoughts during that? And when he got out, he started mentoring kids in the community. And he started back playing basketball. And so that was a special story for me. I wrote about Rasheed Jordan. One more that I really liked was Reese. I wrote a story about Reese Whitley. So he's a kid from Philly, a black kid. I think he's like 6'6". So you're probably thinking basketball, but no, Reese Whitley is a swimmer. And us black people in the community, we know Black people in swimming don't mix like peanut butter and jelly. So I mean, I learned about Reese Whitley, and he's at the University of California because in swimming in the NCAAs, all the best schools are out in the Pac-12 pretty much, like Cal, Stanford, Arizona, right, UCLA. Like most of the best swimming schools are all the way over there. So kids from the East Coast usually the best ones at least go all the way over there. So he's at Cal, and I get this opportunity to write about a black kid who's 21 about to go for an opportunity in the Olympics. And I believe when the next Olympics roll around in 2024, I'm going to be telling people, like, I wrote about this kid in 2020 when he was in college, and he was, going, so he's he's in the 200 meter. He comes from Philly. And it just was an interesting story on how a kid from his background got into swimming, became really good at it, because most kids 6'6", 6'7", from a a black background, they're probably getting persuaded to play basketball, right? But he's like I bet people, he was telling me how people always come up to him and like, what team you play for? He's like, oh, I swim at Cal. Like, so that one was a fun one. Away from the cultural side, I was trying to think of something else, just away from like the cultural stories that I did, like with those two. I did some fun stuff. I'd say when I went in Rodney McLeod's house for the Eagle safety. So I went over to his house and we did a fun story on just he and his wife's foundation and the fashion and the things that they do, for the community. I believe
he does a lot for the community.
Yeah, he put together an event that helped over 100,000 kids just last couple weeks ago. A sneaker ball that had the big names there. Everyone was there. Like it was pretty dope. So I'd say going to Rodney McLeod's house is definitely up there. And then those two stories I felt like were powerful stories where it's like you probably want a certain person to write these kind of stories so they can correctly, just pinpoint the story that we're trying to tell.
That's definitely good. I've seen all those. One of my favorite that I seen you do was actually Stephen Fulton, Cool Boy Steph. That was one of my favorites.
One of my favorites too. Yep.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite interviews right there. Now, as my fault, I went a little bit too fast. Now, with you being from Memphis, right?
Yep.
And Tennessee and all that together.
Yep.
How is it that you're not a Grizzlies fan, nor are you a Tennessee Titan fan?
Man, okay. You got to understand, for one, I'll start with the Tennessee Titans. You got a lot of Titans fans in Memphis. Like, don't get me wrong. It's a lot of Titans fans in Memphis, but Nashville and Memphis, we not best friends. We don't hug each other like, yeah, we all for Tennessee. It's always Memphis thinks it's the best city in Tennessee. Nashville thinks, we the best city in Tennessee. And when I went to Knoxville, you had the people from Memphis, you had the people from Nashville, and that's how it is. Like, so with the Titans being in Nashville, it's like, you got Titans fans, you got a lot of Titans fans here, but this isn't like Titans 2.0. Memphis isn't Titans like it's not like Nashville. You have a lot of Cowboys fans. You have a big wide diversity. So that's how that happened. And then being a Suns, fan, just like that was just like a growing up, Steve Nash, and the Grizzlies didn't get to Memphis until around 2000. So, of course that'll be different now. I work in NBA covering the team. It's completely different. But basically just growing up, the Suns were the most fun team to watch in the NBA for little kids. Because when you're a little kid, you're just looking for that flash. Like 10 years from now, you're going to see a lot of 18-year-olds, 21-year-olds that are big Kansas City Chiefs fans because of Patrick Mahomes and Golden State Warriors fans because of Steph Curry. Like, that's all kids like. And that's how it was for me. I legitimately remember half of my classroom in 6th grade being Suns fans because of Steve Nash and Amari Stoudemire. Now, that as they got bad, that went away. But yeah, that's how those two teams happen. Memphis it's not like Philly. If I would have grew up in Philly, I probably would have, been a fan of all those pro teams or, some of the other bigger cities. Memphis has one team. It's an NBA team. And the Titans aren't Memphis's team. Like, you got Titans fans here, but that's not our team.
Yeah, because see, Memphis and Knoxville on the opposite ends of the state. And then Nashville's in the middle. Right. And it's like Nashville think they better than everybody, so nobody claims Nashville. It's really interesting. That's what I was told by somebody from Tennessee.
Yeah, it's like a rivalry. You got East Tennessee kind of, I don't know. I feel like East Tennessee is kind of like their own little bubble. Like, East Tennessee is kind of weird. I'm not gonna lie. Like, going to school over there, it's kind of like they kind of got their own little thing going over there. But Knoxville, taking out Knoxville is I like Knoxville, but East Tennessee as a whole, it's kind of weird. But Nashville,
it's Appalachia. It's the Appalachian Mountains over there. So
yeah, and then Nashville, like you said, they think they're better. and Memphis is like, nah, we better. So it's like it's a little rivalry thing. Like I just saw it, and it's always been like that. So.
My fault. Now you spent some time in Philadelphia,
Yeah.
and you know, Sharon always asks where's the best place to go eat a cheesesteak, right?
Yep.
So now I would say some places, but you know, being the fact that you're an out of towner,
Yeah.
how about you tell some places that you went to go eat at in Philadelphia that you say, oh, this is a good spot for this and this is a good spot for that.
Speaking my language, man.
Uh-oh.
Ishka Bibbles is, you know, that's one of my favorites.
Ishka Bibbles? Which is Ishka Bibbles?
No, it's Ishka Bibbles.
Ishka Bibbles.
Like Ish, like Tokyo Ish, Ishka Bibbles.
Oh, Ishka. Okay.
Yeah, right. It's on South Street. It's on the
Yep. So Ishka Bibbles is a top option. And one of my like ones that you probably want, like if you Google top cheesesteaks in Philly, this one ain't gonna pop up. But like people know in Philly, like Max's in North Philly, that's my spot. I went to Ishka Bibbles probably more than anyone because Ishka Bibbles was close to where I worked almost in a way. But Max's is where I went like when I was like hungry. It was like I gotta get the best cheesesteak right now because it's all the way on the other side of Philly in North Philly over there. But I had to get it. So Max's, Ishka Bibbles were probably my top two. D'Alessandro's, you know, that's another one that I really like. I'd say those were probably my favorite three that I liked. Yeah, Ishka Bibbles, Max's, and D'Alessandro's.
Wow.
Now, did you have any other favorite?
I see D'Alessandro's on the list, but I don't see Max's. You're right. I do see that on the list.
Max has got a picture of Kevin Hart outside of it.
Yep, it's a mural.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Kevin Hart, one of the movies he did, he went into Max's and bought everybody cheesesteaks.
Oh, wait a minute, hold up. Max's is number 7.
There you go.
Yeah. On Germantown Avenue?
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, that's number 7. So it made the list.
There it is.
All right. I have to check that out when I finally come to Philly.
Yeah, so what were some of the other spots in Philadelphia that you went and you hung out at? I seen you playing basketball at a couple of spots.
Oh yeah. Man, most of the places I went were work related. Because that was a big part of my schedule. That was like 5-6 days out of the week. So, but playing basketball, I played at a couple of the parks. Like I believe it's how do you say it? It's Tustin Park, where Kobe Bryant used to play in West Philly. So actually, see, I didn't get to do this story, but it's in the work. They're about to redo that park over there. I think it's like 60th Street. They're about to redo that park, and they're gonna put some Kobe Bryant, inspirational things over there, and it's gonna be done by Kobe Bryant's foundation. So it's gonna look real nice. I hate I didn't get to see that through, but yeah, that's where I used to play at a lot. But when I played with a lot of the pro players, I played ball with them a lot. We'd be at a lot of the gyms. We'd go to the Sixers G League gym out in Delaware. I'd go down to UPenn, play over there, and do things like that when I was playing ball. But of course, I went to Wells Fargo a lot. I went to Citizens Bank, the baseball park. Went there. Lincoln Financial. I finally got to get there about 3 times this football season. So those were some of my favorite spots. And then boxing gyms all across the city. I mean, I was in, I probably went into 15 boxing gyms just everywhere,
and they be at some of the weirdest places, right?
And you want to be in the middle of North Philly, like right next to the train station, and then want to be right next to a car shop in the middle of West Philly, but I love them though. It's really a big part of the culture.
Now, hold up. Your boy Jerry Hurt say, tell him how me and Fifi beat you on 60th Street. Jerry Hurt.
Oh man, I'm not about to. He said so. Basically, what happened was, you know, they came up here, we hooped and whatnot. And this actually was around the time where, you know, I was getting interest in the Memphis job. So I was expecting a call from them, right? We were playing 21. Mind you, we were playing basketball going to 21. I had about 15 points. I think Jerry had around 15, 16, 17 points. And Fife had around the same. Like, all our scores were right in that same range. I had to go sit down, and I had to go, you know, I had to make sure that I was gonna not miss that call from Memphis. And he said, "Did you want us to keep playing?" And I said, "Yeah, go ahead." And he won the game while I was waiting on the phone call. But it was, you know, some little stuff that happened in between then, you know, with his little cheap ways, and they tried to call a travel on me.
Yeah, Jerry said you got mad.
Yeah, they tried to call travel on me, man. And, you know, I ain't appreciate that.
Oh man, yeah, that sounded like that was a funny story. Now, what was it like working for the Philadelphia Inquirer?
Man, it's dope. Chance of a lifetime. You don't get a lot of opportunities like that. You know, like the resources were amazing. I mean, I had my own show that, you know, we were really just starting to crank up, because when I got bumped to full time, I got a new role, right? I started sports culture role, so I was starting to really do some real cool stuff, and gave me my own show. Man, I had great coworkers. Like, that was, you know, a thing, you know, in a big newsroom like that, you wonder, like, will you get drowned out? But that wasn't the case. I mean, it was people from all sections of the newsroom that didn't know much about sports, that would reach out to me and offer, you know, just their assistance any way they can help. So that was dope. And then just the opportunities, man. Like this is the first time I really just got to travel to work. Like, right before the pandemic shut down, I took 2 trips back to back. I went to DC for a basketball tournament in March, and then I left straight from DC. Didn't even stop in Philly. Straight from DC to Brooklyn for a basketball tournament at the Barclays Center. So it's just like opportunities like that, man. It's like, you know, that was my first time just getting to travel to work like that. And man, the Inquirer was great to me. Like, it really, you know, I got to work with some of the best writers in the business, period. And the Inquirer has produced some of those, you know, alums of the Inquirer, some of the biggest people in the business right now. And I don't think I could have asked for like a better opportunity coming out of college. I don't think it could get any better than that.
That's definitely great to hear. So you're in Memphis. You get the call from the Memphis Grizzlies, and they say they want you as their beat writer. Now, how did you know to apply for it? That's what I want to know.
It was commercial appeal in Memphis. I don't even know if I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but I'm gonna say it.
Shit!
Hopefully I don't get it.
Oh Lord.
No, I'm not. I'm gonna chill.
But
basically, what happened was they were interested. You know, they were highly interested in me. So you know, there were a couple you know, gouges my interest, and you know, that's kind of how it happened, right? They a kid from Memphis, and it goes back to the networking things I was talking about. People were saying my name to them, which, you know, means a lot to me, because you know, I work hard. I try to work real hard, and that's my goal, right? You know, like, I don't want to have to go out here like, hey, what about me? I want this opportunity, or I want that opportunity. I want, you know, people to see the work that I'm doing and say, let's go get him, you know. And that's kind of how it came together, because at the end of the day, you know, at the Inquirer, it wasn't like I was looking to leave, you know. Everything for me was great at the Inquirer. I just got a new role, and I was put in a position where I had a role that no one's ever had at the Inquirer before, and cover, you know, sports culture. That was completely different, and I had just the freedom to work across all the sports. Like, it's a cool job. Anybody would love that job. So when Memphis called, you know, I had to really do some thinking. When the commercial appeal called, had to really do some thinking. I wasn't initially like just sold on leaving. It was a month, probably a month and a half process. Whereas I was like, I'm trying to, make sure I make the right decision. It was definitely choosing between two really good opportunities, but it was scary at the same time because it's like I need to weigh every little small minor detail just so I can make sure I choose the right thing. But yeah, that's kind of that was kind of my thought process. It was for a while. I really didn't tell anyone about the opportunity at all. A lot of people didn't know, except people in the business. And, I had to handle it like that. But in a way, it was like, man, a lot of people in Philly, I didn't really get to have like too many going away things because like by the time I made my decision, it was time for me to go. But it was because I kept it to myself. I really it was a tough, man. It was toughest decision I've ever made in my life. Choosing the college was so much easier than this and every other life-changing decision that I've ever had to make. But this was literally, it was two really, really good opportunities. And it was so tough, man. I can't say how tough it was because I learned a lot through that process and just how to make those type decisions. Because like I said, I never wanted to leave here. I planned on being in Philly for years. Like I just got.
I did plan on having you for about 5 more years.
I had some big projects like I was working on for next year. Like we were working on some stuff. I feel like that would win some national awards. Like, and that was my plan. But certain opportunities come present themselves. It's like, let me think. And eventually I got, it's like, okay, Memphis is where I want to be.
That's what's up. That's my last question that I'm gonna kick it to Sharon. But do you travel with the team as a beat writer?
Okay, not with the team, but the commercial appeal will. But basically, yeah, I'll be going to a lot of
the away games.
Yeah. I'm probably not gonna go to every game, but I'm gonna go to.
Make sure you come to the one in Philadelphia. That's the only thing I was saying.
I'll
be at that game.
January, I believe it's January 28, 26. Oh man, I'm already there. Yeah, I'm already letting people know.
Yeah, I'm gonna be at that game.
I'll be there for sure.
Wait a minute. Do y'all play the Hornets? I need to look at the schedule. Do y'all play Charlotte?
They do. Yep. I plan on coming to Charlotte too.
I need to get to Charlotte so I can meet you in person.
That's February.
Hey, the guy Alonzo said congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
God Alonzo.
He's a writer too?
No, that's one of my boys I grew up with. Like my.
Oh, okay.
Awesome.
Okay, Sharon.
It's my turn. Okay. You had some great questions though, Dennis. I'm just all in. I'm like, I didn't even want to go. But listen, you strike me as a person, you're very careful when you make your decisions. And I really, really respect that. And in journalism, being a journalist, I know you really have to give some thought to your decisions before you make a move because the market is so competitive.
Right. And
journalists can easily come and go by making one misstep. Right. I've seen it happen. And I can tell that it's like you have maturity in the game, although you haven't been in the game that long.
Oh,
and I just wanted to tell you first, before I even start my questions, that's what I get from you, just from the things that you have said. And I respect that so tremendously. I really, really do. And how careful you make your decisions. Is this how you make decisions in general? Or is this primarily what you have to do for your career? But in general, do you take time? Do you seek advice at all? Or do you just process things internally mainly? Or how do you do that as a, as a person individually? How do you process decision?
I'm a big critical thinker. So yeah, that's how I handle that process is how I handle a lot of my big, just general, just everyday decisions that I feel like any decision that I feel like can change your life. I'm really, really careful with. And the older I get, the more I learn that it's not always like choosing a college or a decision like, choosing my next job. It's smaller. It's something like, oh, do I want to do radio? Do I want a TV? Or do I want to do sports writing? Looking back on it at the time, I wasn't thinking about that like, oh my God, like which one is it going to be? It was just, I just ended up gravitating more towards writing, and that's how it happened. So, but basically, yeah, that's pretty much how I am with most of my decisions. I'm very big on perspective thinking as well. Like I try to I talk to a lot of people about that, where it's like, you know, I try to get a lot of different perspectives, because you can talk to one person who's older, and just, you know, just throughout my decision making process, um just with this decision and even more, you kind of get a sense a lot of times, and this is not always the case, but more times, just from my experience, when I talk with a lot of older people, they have more of a how do I word it, kind of like, you have to grind your way through it. You have to, you know, work your way through it. You got to go through this in order to get to this.
Right.
And with a lot of the younger people that I talk to, they may say, I don't think it's a way around that. You know, let's try
They
try
want
to
the shortcut. They want the shortcut through. Let's just be honest. They really do.
yeah, that's
But I can tell you're not like that.
no. I'm, you know, I'm real, man. Is with this decision in particular, like I'll just go through this for example. Like, I probably talked to maybe 25 people in the industry. Maybe a little bit less, because I tried, you know, I kept it close to the vest. Like, it was only people that I feel like I could trust, because, you know, I didn't want it to get out there. But maybe a little bit less. I say 20. But it was mainly, you know, talked to a lot of younger people that I knew really well, you know, just from, you know, previous internships and SJI and things like that. Then I talked to some of my older mentors in the business, and then I seeked opinion from a couple people outside of the business, because I wanted that perspective too, from someone who's outside of the journalism business, who doesn't know much about journalism. Like, what would they think about a big career decision where, you know, like you said, one wrong decision and you mean it could, you know, it could be bad. So, I mean, I went through it real. I was real extensive with it. I mean, but I kept it close to the vest, and that's how I am with you know, a lot of my decisions. You know, I try to seek different perspectives, because, you know, sometimes my perspective is I see something one way, and then I talk to someone older, and it's like, you know what, I never thought about it like that. Now let me think about that side of it a little more, and compared to what I think. Then I talk to someone younger, and they may bring something else, like, I didn't think about that either. Then I just rethink about all those things, collaborate a little bit, and then I probably go back to those people again and say, look, this is where I'm at now. And yeah, that's in some prayer as well. You know, I definitely, you know, just pray my way through those decisions too. But that's, yeah, I'm a critical thinker. Like, I try to weigh, and I told my mom, for example, because I didn't talk to my mom about this decision a lot, right? Like, you would think, you know, I talked to my mom a lot, and I talked to my mom in the beginning. Like, I told her, you know, I got this opportunity. We talked a little bit about it, and I was like, all right, next thing you probably gonna hear is my decision. You know, like, that's how I was with this process. And
How did she feel about that? Did she say, why didn't you? Or did she say, okay, I get it. I get DeMichael. Because I'm sure that's probably what she called you.
she knows.
I get DeMichael. I know how he processes, and so I'm good with that.
Yeah, she knows me better than anybody, and she knows I'll, you know, like, she was gonna hear my decision first and all that. So yeah, she's cool with she knows, you know, at the end of the day, like she said, she trusts my decision making. So
That's great. Sounds like you guys have a great relationship.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
That's good. Which usually you do when you raised by a single mom. You was talking about being raised by a single mom.
Right.
And you know, I was a single parent too, with my son. So when I meet other young men who were raised by single moms, I feel drawn to you. Like, I have a special connection. I look at you like think about my son. And if you had any advice to give someone, a young man who was raised by a single mom, who may not be sure of what they want to do in life, they don't know. They're whatever age. They could be 18, they could be 25, they could be 28, they could be 35, whatever the age is, and they're not quite sure what direction they want to go yet. You know, they may be even older than you. What kind of advice would you give them?
I'd say, when you're in that position, usually when you come from, you know, like a single parent household, sometimes there's pressure, there's pressure to be that one that, I want to do this for my mom or my dad, or opportunities that you may or may not have gotten growing up, and there's that pressure to really speed up that process. I'll say two things. One, go at your own pace, especially in this era, social media era. Everyone's posting their achievements, accomplishments, and it can get draining. And you talk about, someone 35 can say, man, he's 22, 23, and he's ahead of me, but you can't look at it like that, or someone 18 could say, oh, he's 21, I want to be where he's at when I'm 21. Can't really look at it like that either. Like, you have to go at your own pace. You have to understand your race is not going to be at the same speed as the next person. That's the main thing I try to tell people. That's the main thing I try to tell. I have to remind myself too. Like, I'm going at my own speed. I'm my own competition. And that's the most important thing. And the other thing that I want to add to that is, when you talk about coming from that single background, is with that pressure is you have to do what you want to do. Sometimes there's pressure to want to impress your mom, or if it's a single parent and it's your dad, want to impress your dad because they always thought you were going to do this thing, or they say, oh yeah, he's gonna he loves animals, he's going to be a veterinarian one day, or oh, he loves football, he's going to be a football player. And you're 23, 24, 25, you're still trying to impress your parents, and you're like, man, my mom always saw me do. No, you can't, because you're not gonna have fun that way, right? You're not gonna enjoy it. And I think the biggest thing we have to accept in this journey is you have to do something that you enjoy. You have to do something, or at least want to do something where it's like it doesn't really feel like work. Like, that's the goal, right? So
it feeds your soul.
Yeah,
that's the way I express it. Is I say it feeds your soul.
Right. So you combine those things, because sometimes when you do your passion, you kind of go, it takes a little bit longer than probably a quicker opportunity where you could be making, some decent money, but it's like $7.50 every morning. You're just now getting up to get to your 8:30 job, and you're like, so I say, follow your dreams, follow your passion. Just, do your research and whatever that is, meet people in that area, and go at your own pace. Don't look at the next person and say, they're already here, I want to be here. Say, you know what, this is my journey. I'm trying to get this step done by this age, this step done by this month, this step done by this time, and go at your own speed. And that's what I try to do. And that's a big part of it. That keeps you grounded. And like you said, that process will feed your soul.
Do you have any, you mentioned the pressure that parents can sometimes put on these, I'm sticking with especially the young men, but the young women too.
Right.
What do you have any advice for the parents that unintentionally, I'm sure, do this because they just want so much, more for this child. Right. That's how we do when we have children. What advice, do you have any advice for the parents?
That's a good question, because I think a lot of times it's good for the parents to, you want the best out of your child. So you kind of push them to those opportunities. But I think as a parent, you have to really learn what's your child's passion. Sometimes as parents, I feel like parents have what they think is good for their kids, and what you think is good for your kid might be completely different than what your kid has in mind. And all this can go back to personal experience for me. So growing up, when I was really younger, me, my younger brother, and my cousin stayed together. My cousin was a couple years younger than my brother. My brother was 16 months younger than me. So we all were, in like a 3-4 year range, real close together. And they were, they love cartoons like normal kids, right? We get out of school, they want to watch cartoons, they want to watch Courage the Cowardly Dog and all the Cartoon Network stuff. Me,
right.
I wanted to put my TV on ESPN. I wanted to go watch, football after school. So basically, we all shared a room. All three of us were in a room together. And, you know, it was one TV in there. I think at some point we had 2 TVs in there. But basically, they wanted to watch cartoons, and I didn't want to watch them. So what my mom would do sometimes is I go in my mom's room, and she put the TV on sports in there, and you know, it's kind of like in that way, like his passion is a little bit different. You know, that's what he likes to do. Same thing with sports. You know, I love playing sports. Growing up, my younger brother, he gravitated towards that a little bit more when he was in high school, but he wasn't into those, you know, just as much. So it's like you have to really learn what exactly does your child want over what exactly do you want for them. Because you know, when they're born, you know, you say stuff like, oh, look at him, he got some long legs, he might be a basketball player, he's gonna be a track star, and you know, stuff like that. But you got to make sure you don't put that pressure on them. And sometimes, you know, kids can feel like, man, you know, they're letting their mom down if they don't do this, or they letting their mom down. When in reality, as a parent, but you know, a kid doesn't think like this, but when in reality, a parent wants you to do what's best for you, and what you know, what's best for you, they'll be happy with. But as a kid, you feel like you've heard something for so long about, oh, did you see this basketball player? You play just like him, or you know, little things like that, where it can get to a kid and it builds up in the head, and now it's all about impressing the parent. So you just got to be, you know, just, I say, careful with just those words, and make sure you just learn what you're in. That, you know, for a kid, that changes a lot, right? Like I have friends who went to college who started off in journalism like me and ended up doing something completely different by the time we graduated. So you have to be flexible to that. I know, like, there were a couple kids who were like, oh, I'm changing my major to this, and their parents were like, what? Why? You know, but you have to be, okay, why do you like that? You know, be a little understanding, because sometimes it'll sound funky. You know, a kid will go from engineering and end up saying, oh, I'm going to be an English major. You know, so it's like, what? Why in the world would you change engineering for English? Like, explain that to me. So,
yeah, or like me, change the major, then change it back.
Yeah, right.
With my crazy self.
You just gotta be just understanding that a lot of kids' minds change so much, and you just have to just flow with them throughout their process, and not hit them with the, oh, I thought you wanted to do this, I thought you wanted to do that. Just flow with them throughout that process, but knowing that a lot of kids are, you know, things are going to change. And your kids, like if you have multiple kids, they're going to be different. Just because big brother or big sister is doing this doesn't mean little brother and little sister is going to, you know, they might start off like, oh, my big brother is doing this, so I'm going to do it with them. But eventually they'll get old enough where they have their own interests, and you have to make sure that, you know, you treat them a little bit different, right? Like, towards those, you know, those interests. Like, don't, you know, cater like, oh, he's playing football, oh, he's gonna play football too, and you know, things like that. Like, let them, you know, find themselves in that way, and just accept that changes will happen. I think that's the key.
Good advice. Very good advice. But as a journalist, how do you keep your stories fresh? And this is what I mean. So you're going to go to this high school basketball game. The same thing's going to happen. 2 teams are going to get on the court, compete. Somebody's going to win. Somebody's going to be celebrating. Somebody's going to be upset. They leave the arena. You go to the next thing. You covering the 76ers. Somebody's going to win. Somebody's going to lose. Probably the other team. But we won't get into that. But you know, somebody's going to lose and win. Same, so it's the same thing. The swim meets you would cover. Well, there's only going to be one person that comes in first, and then second and third. How do you take some of the same information from each event, but keep it fresh?
A big thing for me is I tell myself that every game, you know, is the same in the way that one person will win. Like you just said, there's going to be a team or a person who wins or loses. Someone's going to be happy. Someone's going to be sad after the game. And there's usually going to be a big change in that game that leads for that to happen. But every game is also different. You know, every game, something different is going to happen. And for me as a writer, I try to key in on those things. You know, you got to really, I feel like you can't just sit back and just watch the game and just watch the score alone and just say, oh, yeah, one team was winning by a lot. Then the other team started to come back, and it was a really good game because they made a really good comeback. You have to find something really special from each game that led to that. I try to pay attention to the smallest of details, like a coach on the bench may not even be the head coach, assistant coach, while the other 5 players are on the court, he probably points to one player, tapping on him, tells him to watch what another player is doing. And then that player comes in the game and probably struggled early on in the game, does something better. So that's the thing for me. I try to really find something unique within each game. And at the end of the day, I have to tell myself now, especially in this era, people are watching the games. Like, so I can't just say, this is what happened at the game. Such and such scored at this time. Such and such scored at this time. This team was winning. This team was losing. I'm at these games. So I have to show you what you can't see on TV, right? Like,
exactly.
you see what's on the court on TV. You don't see, oh, how was the crowd, when they went to commercial and the players were walking back to the bench. Did they boo them when they went and sit down? Or were they clapping for them? Did they give them a standing ovation? I really try to pay attention to those small little details. When the players were walking back to the locker room, did they throw the jersey up to the crowd? The fans, hey, let me get your jersey. And he just ignored them. Or, try to pay attention to those very little details that can really put a nice story together.
Yeah, that's the mark of a good journalist. Somebody that can give you a perspective that's not the obvious on the surface perspective. You can get the story behind the story, and that's what makes you, a good writer. And you got to pay attention to detail, though. You're right about that. And I'm one of those detail-oriented people. So even when I tell stories, Dennis will tell you, sometimes it takes me a longer time because I'm giving you some detail that you need to know so that what I'm going to say next makes sense to you, or else you won't even get why that's impactful. So I get it. And that's a good quality for a great writer. I just anticipate you're going to have a phenomenal career. You've already had a phenomenal career, especially for your age, really. And I hate to say that because this is not an ageism comment, but you've already done a lot for a young journalist. And I'm just so excited to meet you, to have this interview, because I anticipate great things from you. I really do, because you've got it on straight. I wanted to go into something else. I'm going to get back to the perks of being a journalist in a minute. Okay. But I want to touch on one thing that's all the rage right now. Everybody's talking about this subject right now. The HBCU versus the PWI.
For sure.
And, I'm looking at, I had to pull up the map of Tennessee because I thought I had the map in my mind, but I looked at it again. And looking at Tennessee, you're in the South, you're from Memphis, you're around Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina, all these states that's a hotbed, even Tennessee, of HBCUs.
Right.
But yet you went to a PWI.
100%.
You've got some angry Black people across this nation looking at you saying, why wasn't he at an HBCU? I've got to ask that question. I'm a graduate, as we talked earlier, from Michigan State University. It is a PWI in the Big Ten. Huge school, 45,000 students, lots of money. One of the top 25 athletic programs in the nation, Division I school, all that wonderful, great stuff. Yep. But it also had the #3 journalism school in the country when I went there. And of course, I told you about my whole major thing. So that's where I went. Is there a reason? Was there any, like, for instance, in Tennessee, the HBCU that I'm familiar with is Tennessee State. Okay. Right. Tennessee State University. I'm from Dayton, Ohio. They have the largest HBCU alumni association in Dayton, Ohio than any other alumni association in the state of Ohio. They are the #1 Tennessee State University's alumni. Okay, at least they used to be. I haven't gotten the latest data, but they used to be #1. And I always think about Tennessee State when I think about Tennessee. Was there any type of interest in going to an HBCU? Was that part of your decision making? Because we're talking about how you make decisions again.
Mhm.
And what do you say to people that would give you this type of criticism about choosing that school over? They always say you chose it over
Right,
an
right,
HBCU,
right.
which I'm phrasing it carefully because I'm so angry about the subject. I'm about to explode myself, but I really want to hear from you and your
Okay.
opinion on it.
Okay. I think I got a unique answer for that because I had this conversation with a couple of my friends right? Because actually when I was going through my process, I considered Tennessee State very early in my process. I considered them very early in the process. Lemoyne Owen College in Memphis. Like some of my friends went there. They were trying to sway me to go there to play baseball. And I thought about it for a little bit, not too long, but I thought about it, I went on a visit to Russ College, which is in Holly Springs, Mississippi, North Mississippi area. So about an hour from Memphis. But I went on a baseball visit there. Fisk University, which is in Nashville as well, near Tennessee State, another HBCU. I went on a baseball visit there. So with the HBCUs, pretty much, I was considering 3 or 4 of them in terms of going to play baseball at them and whatnot. So yeah, they were part of my process. But to answer your question, the main thing I would say is I'm big on just my personal experience. When I went to that, PWI, University of Tennessee, it gave me a whole new perspective on things that I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't have got at a HBCU. In terms of that, being around a whole bunch of people that didn't look like me. Growing up, I was always around, a lot of Black people. That was nothing, But you know, I understand both sides of the spectrum. Like you go to a HBCU, like you're comfortable, you're at home, like you're around. You got what fried chicken Wednesday, you know what I'm saying, and all that good stuff. And you go to a PWI, and it's none of that, and you just like, and homecoming's a little different and things like that. So my answer to the people who say that is, I legitimately, and it's personal experience, I feel like a lot of Black kids, a lot of kids who grow up in the inner city, who are surrounded by a lot of Black people, and that's all they've known pretty much growing up for the most part. I think it's good in a way to get that experience, because probably 9 times out of 10 in the real world, I mean, there are jobs where you're going to be surrounded by predominantly mostly 80-90% people that look like yourself, but in corporate America, pretty much you're going to be the minority. And just getting that experience on how to work around those people, how they how they look at you sometimes, and before you get to that work world, right? Because in college we go through a lot of those mental lapses where you're at a PWI and you don't look like a lot of these people, and it's uncomfortable. So you go through a lot of that in college, and I feel like it prepares you for that. So that's one side of it where I say, and even to switch that around, I feel like a lot of Black kids who grow up, in, how do I say it, in more stable situations, and probably got to experience a more diverse cultural landscape growing up. I feel like they should definitely 100% go to a HBCU to really just rail in on that Black experience and get that fully through. So that's like my short answer to it. And then as well, I would add that a lot of the PWIs are handing out money to us, right? So my answer to those of you is like, if you're a Black kid, and a lot of HBCUs aren't just handing out money to Black kids just like that. So it's like, why would I turn down a full ride and go get a couple loans? And like, I had confidence in myself to wherever I went, I felt like I could maximize the opportunity. But it's like, UT offered me a full ride. Like, it's not like a lot of my other options weren't HBCUs. They offered me a full ride. Like, I'd be dumb to turn that down and, you know, not take advantage of that opportunity. And you know, I've had this conversation actually with a lot of my friends who felt like, you know, I should have went to a HBCU and things like that. And I know 100% if I would have went to a HBCU, I would have enjoyed college a little bit more. But my perspective may be a little different. I didn't really go to college just to like, oh, this is gonna be the best 4 years of my life. Like, I went to college to work. Like, I looked at it as a 4-year business trip. That was my mindset. And I didn't really go there for all the other stuff. That was just, my mindset was, look, I know what I want to do pretty much. And I'm going to college to take care of this. I feel like, and like I said, I can talk about personal experience, and I know like some other people I've had these conversations with too. If I would have went to a HBCU, I probably would have been a little bit more distracted. You know, going to a PWI forced me in a box in a way for a while. You know, I had my friends, and I know at a lot of PWIs, and a lot of people, I think they go to HBCUs probably don't even know this, but a lot of PWIs have like Black hubs, right? Like we had, we called it Black UT, around homecoming time, you know, there'd be homecoming events going on, and then Black UT will bring on, you know, a Black comedian, you know, that we really like, or they'll, you know, hold these events that really cater to, you know, culturally what we want to experience. So we had fun stuff like that. You know, we had our Black Cultural Center at UC where we could go to and things like that.
Right.
As well. But as far as just the whole HBCU PWI thing, I mean, I'm all for it. I mean, we supposed to root for each other, right? You go to college, you get a degree, and you set yourself up. Like, that's what it's all about at the end of the day.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. I wish you lived here. That's it. What I'm gonna have to do is bring you up here, just over here, I should say, over, because we're right next to Tennessee, is to bring you over here to Durham. I have a friend, shout out to DJ Craze. He is very involved in the Durham Public Schools. Yeah. He has a position at Pearson Town Elementary here in Durham. Shout out to Pearson Town. It's a school made up of a lot of minority children. I would love to have you come speak to these kids, because DJ Craze arranges for adults of color to come in and speak to the children about what they do, and give them hope, give them encouragement, what they need to do, and talk to them about their experiences. You would be excellent for that. That's one thing. Two, I wish you were here so that I could fight this battle with you, because I get talked to about this subject. I see it all the time. I hear it, because Durham, North Carolina is home to North Carolina Central, right, which has the top rated law school in the nation, and it's an HBCU, and people do not know how top rated it is in that area, but they're also highly rated in other disciplines, but it's not talked about. And so you get all these people who went to Central still live here in Durham. They don't leave, they stay here. And so everybody around me is Central graduates, right? And then we're about an hour or so from Greensboro, North Carolina A&T, my parents' alma mater, as a matter of fact, what I consider to be the greatest HBCU on the planet is North Carolina A&T. That's just how I feel about it, Aggie Pride. But so I hear HBCU all the time. Raleigh, I'm in Durham. Raleigh is 15 minutes away, right? Then Raleigh has Shaw and St. Aug. Then we've got like, I don't know how many HBCUs just in this state alone, right? Ohio, where I'm from, we had 2. And the 2 we had, when I went to, was choosing programs to go into, did not have my program. Right. So what was I supposed to do? Just pick them because they were at HBCU and they didn't have what fed my soul? I'm supposed to just go there and ask my parents to spend all this money for me to go there because you say, I need to support an HBCU because it's an HBCU and you're a Black child. I can't get with that argument. I just can't. And like you were talking about Tennessee and you all having things there for Black students and so forth, at Michigan State, it was the same thing. I mentioned to you intentionally before I asked you this question, how many students we had when I went. It was like 45 to 48,000 students. Out of that, how many Black people do you think went there? A whole hell of a lot, okay? And the size of the Black population at Michigan State was larger than most HBCUs all over the country.
Yep.
Because they're smaller schools, they tend to be. So I had my Black experience. If I got 9,000 other Black people on a campus that look like me, you know we're gonna have events. Black people are coming. We're an hour from Detroit, one of the Blackest cities in the nation.
Mm-hmm.
So we had Black everything at Michigan State. And this was in the 80s. Right. This is not now, after George Floyd. This was in the 80s. And the whole anti-apartheid movement, we were part of that. We were in touch with who we are, and we had support systems in place for Black people, not just people of color in general, Black people. So when I say I got a Black experience and they get offended, I don't know what to say. I really don't know what else to say. I can't explain it to you what I experienced because I went to the PWI. You can't explain it to me because I didn't go to an HBCU, but I feel like I did. I really do. It was nothing but us. Nothing but us on that campus. This is how I described it. So I didn't feel what other people are feeling, but your perspective is great. I wanted to read a comment to you from the comments from our great friend, Mr. Donovan Maurice Samuels here. He said, I went to Morehouse. The endowment and resources are just not there compared to the PWI. I'm gonna stop right there because most people, when we're discussing this, they bring up Morehouse and Spelman as if they are the elite of the elite and they have all the money and they do all this stuff. But here is a Morehouse graduate right here telling us that that is not the case. So that's real to me. Right. And then he said, it depends on your major. Exactly what I said and what you said. Go to the college that has the best opportunity for you. It doesn't matter. That's my take on it, right? And when I see, people starting these endowments and funds for Black students to go to HBCUs, that's wonderful. I want to actually start one for Black people that go to a PWI. You know why? Because we don't have any. We don't get that. We don't get much of that. It's always directed towards that, funneling us in one direction. And I am for all universities. It doesn't matter what it is and whatever you want to do. I want you to go to the best and be the best, right?
Right, 100%.
That's how that works. It's for engineering right here in North Carolina. If you want to be an engineer, you got a PWI and an HBCU, both that have outstanding programs. You can't go wrong with going to NC State. You can't go wrong with going to North Carolina State at A&T. Either one, and you're going to get it. I know personally, my dad went there. That was his major. So, I mean, you get what I'm saying, though. But, I mean, that's a great conversation. I'm glad you're having these conversations with your friends, though, and let them know, hey, it's not like what you think it is at a PWI. All of them are not the same. It depends on your major, and also it depends on how large the college is. If you go to a smaller PWI, I find that you tend to get more of that thing that we want to avoid with the racism and all that than you do at a larger one. I'm not saying it doesn't happen at a larger one, but the chances are you'll experience it more at the smaller PWI than the larger ones, because there's more of us there at the larger ones.
Yeah, and I mean, you're gonna have to be uncomfortable at some point, in life. We can't just.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. Let's talk about that. You were talking about how it prepared you.
Right.
right, from seeing people and dealing with people not like yourself, right? Because their language is different. Their perspective is different. How they handle things and process things is different than us. That's a true statement. And did it prepare you? How well do you think that prepared you? And do you think if you did not have that preparedness, it would have hindered you in any way now?
That's a great question, because I mean, that's exactly what I was just segueing into. Like, if I would have went to a HBCU, this would have happened a little bit later for me, that I'm about to say. So basically, when I went to college, you know how you're growing up, and I believe it's called code switching. You know, when your mom is on the phone with like a bill collector, and you can tell the difference between mom on the phone with like a bill collector and mama on the phone with like a sister girl and all that. And it's like, right. I hear mom on the phone, like, oh yeah, that's some, you know, that's somebody important, right? And growing up, you know, you see that a lot. So in college, I feel like my freshman year, I was around, you know, a lot of people that didn't look like me. And you go through some real uncomfortable feelings because they don't listen to what I listen to. And we don't, you know, we don't have a lot of similarities just from growing up. I used to like certain things I used to do growing up, and they used to like going places and doing things that I've never done in my life. So it's like,
they don't get your references.
Exactly. And
they don't get your references. And we'll spit out a reference like nothing. We'll just say something like hot butter on breakfast toast or something. We'll say something like that. And they'll be looking at you like, what are you talking about? Then you have to say, oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You probably don't know what song that came from. So you don't, yeah.
So basically what happened for me is my freshman year, I went through that period where it's like it was like a lot of code switching, you know, like just a being accepted type thing, you know, and just trying to, you know, fit in, and you know, just, and that wasn't who I was, right? Like that wasn't me growing up. And then sophomore year, when I finally started to get firmly in sports journalism, started to have a bit more of an idea. And then junior year is when I really found myself in terms of like starting to realize like I'm who I am, you know. I'm Michael Cole from Memphis, Tennessee, and this is me. Like I didn't grow up, you know, going to the Smoky Mountains and hiking and doing all those things. Like I grew up on Saturdays going to cookouts, sitting around a bunch of older people, like listening to blues music, and
right.
You know, man, like that's what I grew up around. So it's like, look, I just had to really, you know, once I figured out who I am, and you talk about how that helped me, by the time I got to my interview process for the Inquirer, I was real comfortable with self. You know, I was real comfortable with myself to a point, like through that process, I was like, look, this is who I am. This is who you're going to get. And, you know, like, this is me unapologetically. Like, this is who you're going to get. I wouldn't have done that. Basically saying, I feel like if I would have went to a HBCU and I would have gotten a job at a place like the Inquirer, where it's a lot of white, where it was 3 Black people on a sports staff that was what, 30 people maybe. And I would have came into that, and I would have had that experience a little bit later. I probably wouldn't have been myself initially and just conformed to whatever they needed me to do, whatever they wanted me to do. But I had that experience in college. I was already prepared for it. And it was like, this is who I am. Like, I'm bringing that Southern, that Memphis swagger, that I'm not changing how I talk. You know what I'm saying? I'm not changing how I dress. Like they used to always, you know, like I'm not trying, like I'm coming to work in my J's, you know, like this is me, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not conforming, because we have that idea that we're supposed to, and it's growing up, it's that way too. When you get around a lot of predominantly, you know, white places and stuff like that, parents will sometimes think you're supposed to look a certain way, And when in reality, you just you embrace your culture, embrace how you grew up, embrace, without being disrespectful, of course, but you embrace that.
Right.
So it's like,
Well, there's a difference between being a professional
mm-hmm,
and it not embracing your culture. That's
mm-hmm,
two different things. You can be a professional and embrace your culture at the same time.
100%.
I think sometimes people blur the lines between the two.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I see it.
Oh no, I see a lot of that. I see a lot of that too. And sometimes with us Black people, it's just like, you're like, oh, somebody, making us look bad or things like that. So you see some of that. But, and again, it's a lot of the good too. Like, I love to see people comfortable, and I love to see Black women wearing their natural hair on broadcast TV, because now we're starting to see more of that. I love to see Black women with their short haircuts on, or wearing their afros on sports TV and stuff like that. And it's like, that's what we trying to bring to the table, right? Like, we don't have to wear our hair like they wear their hair, or dress exactly how they dress, because at the end of the day, a lot of those jobs have been mainly white people for so long. You think that's the way it's supposed to be done, but no, you're here because you bring something different. And once we learn that, and I feel like that experience going to that PWI shaped me, gave me like more confidence in my Blackness, because I was around a lot of people that weren't like me. So that's how it was for me. And I know for me personally, like, if I would have went to HBCU, I would have had that experience later. I would have got to the Inquirer, and I probably wouldn't have been as successful as I was there, because there would have been that conformity process that I would have went through, and trying to figure out who I am, how do I work around them, and all those things, where when I got there, it was already set in stone for me.
You would have had to learn how to navigate on the fly.
Right.
Sort of like being baptized by fire. And instead you got practice runs at it when you were in college. And that's how I explain it to people. And I'm not saying that this works better for everyone. There are some college, Black college students, they really need to go to an HBCU for whatever reason, for whatever their upbringing is, all of that. And I don't knock it, and I love it. I love it for them. I just love young Black people getting an education anywhere they can get it that feeds their soul. That's my thing. I don't want them to feel they have to only go here. I don't want them to be limited. I want their little heart and minds to be unlimited on what they want to do and what they can achieve, because that goes hand in hand. If you limit them and telling them where they can succeed, I feel like it will limit them in their perspective on whether or not they can succeed. It'll be one more thing for them to overcome. I'm not saying that they won't succeed. Please hear me when I say that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I don't want them to have anything blocking their perspective on where they can go and how they can get there, right? I want to just be open like it was for me. I felt like I could do anything. I went to one of the top high schools in the nation. We're nationally ranked high school, right? I wasn't in the top of my class, but the mere fact that I went to that school got me into 13 colleges and universities.
Yeah.
The first time I applied, I was not denied any college I applied, I got in. Wow. And I'm including the University of Pennsylvania, which is hard to get in.
That's right? That's Ivy League, yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard to get in there. I got in, but I didn't want to go there really. I did that because I just wanted to see if I would go in. But my grades weren't that great, but I knew the caliber of high school I went to got me in. But the bottom line, I don't want to belabor the point. I just really wanted to get your perspective on that. So I appreciate that. I'm going to move back to what you're doing now. The name of the company that you're doing this for again, what's the name of the company?
Appeal.
Right. And let me just ask you this general question. When you get a media pass, this is what I want you to talk to the students about when you come. When you get that media pass, how much power is in that media pass? what advantages do you get? Because I've had media credentials, okay? And I'll be getting that again, but I've had it and it's a delightful experience. That's how I'm going to say it. It's a delightful experience. So talk a little bit about that really quickly. And then I have like 2 more questions and I'm gonna turn this back over to Dennis.
I love it. I mean, when you get that media pass, you get that credential and you're walking around in a way you almost feel like untouchable, right? Like I can go, you can walk, you ain't got to worry about security blocking you saying, hold up, where you going? So I like, like when I'm walking in arenas, basketball arenas or football stadiums, and I'm just walking right past the security, I don't got to worry about them grabbing me. And like at a basketball game, you can just scroll all around the court, and I mean, it's a lot of freedom with it. When I went to a concert in Philly this summer, like I got to be in like you got the whole crowd where everyone's stuck together, like everyone's tight together in the crowd. Then you got this nice spacious session where the media people are, and I'm just looking back and it's like, there's no way I'd be in that crowd jumping around with 20,000 people. Like,
Right.
So it's some power in it. Like it's fun. Like you get to, and every now and then it's cool. Like when they do try to stop you, like, where you going? And you pull it up, you're like, you see this? Like, and then they like, okay,
bam.
like it's right here. You get the, that's fun. I mean, I love it. It give you a little sense of power, and especially with media passes, it's a certain level of freedom you get with certain ones, and that's the cool part about it. Like you get to like if you're at a football game, some people can't go down to the field. They can stroll around the stadium, but they can't go down to the field. Some people can go down to the field, and in the basketball game, you scroll around. Like, I love it. It's a cool feeling. It's a real cool feeling. Then of course, free food. You get free food at a lot of these events that you go to. You just show your media pass and you eat good. And I mean, you can't beat it, right?
Lovely. That's lovely. And like at basketball games and stuff, you get to go sit up in the sky boxes and stuff like that, right?
Right. Yeah. Like some basketball games you can sit up in the skybox, some you sit courtside, but in football games, you sit up in the press box. And I mean, it was a game at UT my junior year when I covered football. It was a monsoon, like wind was blowing like 20 miles an hour, probably 15, 20 miles an hour. It was raining, like the rain was just doing this, like
wow.
It was. And I'm sitting in the press box, and I'm like, whoo, can't imagine that. Like I'm sitting, I got the AC blowing. I'm sitting on my laptop just typing away, talking about, these people are getting up and putting on their raincoats, and this section got umbrellas, and I'm just sitting typing away inside. So it's
you sitting there dry with a laptop.
Right. It's a cool feeling.
That's cool. That's what's up. That's what's up. It is fun. And then they know your name. So they start learning your name. They say, oh, here comes Sharon, have a seat. Got a seat just for you and all that type of stuff. Love it. So where do you see yourself in about 5 years or 10 years? Where do you see yourself?
Yeah, let me I'm about to switch devices real quick so it doesn't go out like while I'm talking or something. So
okay.
Let me switch. I'm going to switch devices. My screen probably will look different. Let's see.
All right, Dennis, make sure you let him in.
Yeah. Okay.
Dennis, I don't think he hears me. Make sure you let him in because he's switching devices. He's switching devices. So make sure you look. Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
I see you coming in there.
Okay. There we
and
go.
then you have to cut off the other one or else it'll echo. There we go.
There we go.
Awesome. So in 5 to 10 years, where do you see yourself?
5 to 10 years. Right now, I would say that the next step for me is becoming a national NBA rider. And that's lofty goals, of course, especially 5 years. I'd only be 30. So that's that's pretty lofty goals, but that's where I wanna go. I'm hoping that this opportunity to open some doors for me to become a national writer at some of those places, like a CBS Sports or a ESPN or NBA TV or a TNT or Turner Sports or one of those places. So that's the next goal for me. I mean, I want, I'm going to enjoy this process, because I'm real happy to be in Memphis and actually, get to cover the NBA and cover one team and focus on that. But that's the next step. I do want to become a national writer at some point.
That's awesome. And let me ask you, I gotta ask this question. What was it like meeting Stephen A. Smith? I gotta know.
Well, when I met him, it was through like Zoom. So
right.
So it was dope. He's actually was a little more chill than you see on TV all the time. Talked about his experience a lot, going to college, working hard, right? Like talking about eating, like tuna sandwiches and stuff like that in college while working, barely making money, trying to get by. Just a real grind story. So he really takes you through that grind story and just what's it take to get here. But real dope dude. Seems like real dope dude for real. Like he definitely down to earth. But yeah, he actually used to work at the Inquirer too. So
yeah.
So yeah, he's
in fact, he's who I think about whenever I hear Philadelphia Inquirer. I automatically think about him every time.
Yeah,
every
exactly.
time.
Exactly.
And you got an opportunity to meet Mike Wilbon as well?
Through Zoom. Yeah, Mike Wilbon.
He seems to be he's really chill. I really like him a lot.
Real
really
chill.
Smart.
I'm trying to think of I'm trying to think of all the people I've met in person, but it's like it's a lot. So it's like no names are just popping in my head. I've met he went to Northwestern, J.L. Dundee, ESPN guy.
Oh yeah, J.L. Dundee. Yeah. Okay.
I met J.L. Dundee before in person. Real cool, gave me some real good advice. I was a senior in college. I was at NBA All-Star weekend when I met him. And I've met a lot of writers, a lot of writers, and a lot of writers have reached out to me too, especially when I got the NBA job. I mean, it was, man, the people I heard from, just in terms of big time NBA writers, you think wouldn't even, care about some kid, entering the business. Like they're reaching out to me, offering advice or, a help hand, if you need me, and things like that. So
I want to see you. I want to see you on a Jalen and Jacoby show. I could see you on that show being interviewed by Jalen Rose and David Jacoby. That would be wonderful.
No, that would
on that show with them.
That would be dope. That would be real fun. That would be real fun for sure.
Yeah, and Jalen Rose has become one of my favorites. Jamel Hill is still one of my favorites. Of course, she's a Spartan as well. So shout out to her.
Yeah, she get boosts. Yeah,
that's my girl. Yeah. Love her. And so this is my last thing that I always end with when I do interviews. With my co-host here, Dennis Holmes, on the Side Jawn. We thank everybody for listening and being here with us on the Side Jawn. What I always like to end with is what I call my 5-star shout out, right? And what that is I'm gonna shoot out 5 questions to you. I want you to answer like one quick answer, no commentary, just hit me with the answer, okay?
Let's do it.
You sure you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. First question. Jordan or LeBron?
LeBron.
Drums or flats?
Flats.
You rather phone or text?
Phone.
When you go on vacation, you go to the mountains or the beach?
Beach.
Last one, and this one is very important. Very important. Rihanna or Beyonce?
Beyonce.
All right. All right, I'll give you 4 out of 5.
I think I know which one you won't give me.
I'm not saying.
I think I know. It's all good though. It's all
Yeah,
good.
you know. We already talked about that, I think. But that's my shout out, and I'm gonna give this back to my illustrious co-host, the Ignorant Thinker podcast himself, Dennis Holmes, to continue on.
Thank you. Being the fact that you asked him that question, a lot of people don't notice about him, but he is a very big sneakerhead. Very big sneakerhead. Like he got to have his sneakers. Now I need to know what's your favorites? You know, your favorite sneaks.
Whoo. My favorite sneaks. Man, hold up. Right now it might be these.
Not them ones. Let me see.
Not them yellow ones.
Right now it might be the Lightning 4s. Right.
Okay.
I love those. Those are beautiful.
These might be my favorite right now. These are my favorite drops this year for sure. I did get the cool gray 11s that everybody was talking about last week. So I got them. Right. They're sitting right over there too. But I'm a 12s guy, and I'm not you know, overly like with all the colors and stuff. I like the colors. I like the flu game 12s, red and black 12s. They're probably up there with some of my favorites. I like the taxi 12s. They were like, I think my first real pair of Jordans, like black and white with like the little taxi spots on them. I like those. And of course you gotta like the ones and you know the ones, of course, you know, Jordan wore those like since the 80s, and then the 11s are popular, like the breads. I like the breads, red, black, and white bread. So yeah. I love them all.
That's cool. That's cool. Now you actually had a part in the Inquirer where you were doing a sneaker coaching.
Yep.
And shout out to Matt from Ouch League Sports, my family. Ouch League Sports and Matt, you know, he got over 200 pairs of sneakers.
Yeah.
You had something going there. Will you continue that while you in Memphis, or how would that go?
I'm gonna incorporate it into my coverage probably as much as any writer in the NBA. So I plan on, you know, doing a lot of that, you know, just with the players. It'll be a little bit different, but I'm definitely, because it probably wouldn't be like as community oriented, like telling the stories of just the people in the community. It's probably going to be more team oriented with the Grizzlies. But yeah, I'm going to do a lot of that for sure.
That's good to hear. Now, people going to Memphis and they want to know good places to eat at. Where would you send them to?
Well, you know, when you hit the Google, because, you know, I'm big on that, because Google tell you one thing, then it's different when you talk to some people that's really from there. Of course you think of the barbecue spots, right?
Right.
So and you know, those them ribs, you know, in Memphis ribs hit different. Like, you definitely got a couple spots. I like Corky's rib. I like Corky's barbecue spot in Memphis. I'm a big Tops barbecue person. I know a lot of people that like Central's barbecue. Rendezvous is a big spot where, you know, that's going to be the top barbecue spot that'll pop up if you Google Memphis barbecue spot. That's a spot that, like, when a lot of the high school kids come for official visits, they go down to Rendezvous to eat and get some real good barbecue. A lot of the celebrities come here and go there. So Rendezvous is a big spot, and it's real good. But Memphis wings are underrated now. Like, Atlanta gets all the love in the South with wings because, you know, they're lemon pepper flavor. But Memphis has a specialty sauce too, honey gold sauce.
Gold sauce. Yeah.
Honey gold. And
it's delicious.
And it's nothing like it.
It's good, but
I was telling my cousin.
Can't beat that Carolina though.
I knew
she was Carolina.
I knew you were gonna hit that. Because Carolina got good barbecue too, and they throw their gold sauce on it, you know. but that Memphis honey gold, and then you mix it, you mix it with the hot sauce in Memphis, you get some honey hot. It's special. And Memphis has wing spots like they have wing spots like they have barbecue spots. Wing spots are almost, you got a bunch of specialties places. I'll say Crumpy's Wings is my favorite. There's a spot called Ching's Wings, which is probably 3 miles from University of Memphis campus. And Ching's Wings is a big spot. Like Derrick Rose went there a lot when he came to college here. A lot of the former U of M players used to go there. That's another big spot. So Ching's Wings, Crumpy's Wings will be my wing selections. Make sure you don't go there and just get regular sauces. You got to go, and get the Memphis flavor. You got to get honey hot. You got to get honey gold or something like that. And you really get that Memphis feel to it.
He said, the guy said Gus Chicken good for real.
Gus Chicken is elite. And I, when I meet a lot of people down here, we go to Gus. Like a lot of people come to Memphis and they, hey, where we should go? And I say, come on, let's go to Gus Chicken, because that's that real Southern fried chicken. When you think of Southern fried chicken, Gus is like, that's a prime spot.
Yeah, when I was down there, they kept trying to feed me that catfish. I ain't want no catfish.
That's another one. Now you go hit some of those soul food spots and you get some of that food that puts you to sleep 20 minutes after you eat it.
Yeah. I just think I ain't want no catfish. I just like, no, I ain't want no catfish. I seen y'all river. I seen y'all river look like chocolate milk. I was like, I don't want no catfish. That's what it was, man. I ain't gonna lie. I seen that river. I said, I don't want no catfish. I'm cool.
I hear you, man.
Yeah, I definitely think it's some of that barbecue.
You're gonna have to come pick me up, Dennis, and take me with you to Memphis next time.
Next time I'm going to Memphis, I'm probably go back to the Allen Iverson Classic.
Come on.
And my cousin kept telling me, he was like, you was in Memphis in May and you ain't get the barbecue? I said, I ate barbecue, but I didn't stay there for the big barbecue weekend. I didn't stay there for that.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
Yeah, that's what he was telling me. He was like, you gotta get the gold sauce. I said, man, you sound like the cop. When I asked him where to go eat at, he said, go get the gold sauce. Everybody kept saying, get the gold sauce.
Mm-hmm. You gotta say honey gold sauce, man. It's different. It's special.
Yeah. It was good though. I'm not gonna lie. It was good. I had a great time. Again, I want to thank you for coming on, man. I know you're a busy guy, got things to do. You are covering the Memphis Grizzlies, who I got a love for John Morant, but I found a newfound love for Dylan Brooks.
Yeah.
I want to say last season. I had a newfound love for Dylan Brooks last season.
Yeah, he loved
and I always like Slow-Mo. Slow-Mo always had a swag to him, but he literally is Slow-Mo. Like everything he do, patience, time is. And Jaren Jack is playing pretty good this season right now. So I think they got the pieces that they need. I think Steven Adams was good for them.
They're playing great team ball.
Exactly.
Really great team ball.
Was good for them with the rebounds.
Right. I like this team, man. I really do. It's gonna be fun to chronicle this journey as they get back, second season in a row, they'll probably make the playoffs and now, first round last year. So I'm sure they'll have bigger goals this year. And it'll be fun they'll be more competitive this year. It'll be fun just to take people, through that journey. And then, being from here, I think we can tell some really cool stories just about how these players to the city.
Yeah. He said Kyle Anderson with the UCLA. I hear you, Donovan. I definitely hear you. Yeah, as we end this interview, I met you through Ultra League Sports. Shout out to them. And I'm glad that you were down here in Philadelphia doing the Philadelphia Inquirer. Wish you could have stayed some more years, because I know we would have bumped in and did some more things differently. The time I spent in Memphis, I want to thank you for that, because like I told you, I was nervous about little dumb stuff. Nothing major, little dumb stuff.
Yeah.
Wasn't worried about getting robbed. Wasn't worried about, something happens to me going to jail. No, none of that. Just I lose my luggage, or this happened, or that happened. Yeah. You know what I mean? I might not make it somewhere on time. That was the little stuff I was just worried about. But you know what? I thank you for your hospitality and everything. And I had a great time in Memphis. That was one of my first joints. And I always tell everybody the story, like, when I went there the first day on Saturday, you know, I had to make sure I paid for my media pass. I go there with you on Sunday. We just walk right through. Ain't nobody ask us nothing. I said I'm with the right superstar today because I just walk right through. Ain't nobody ask us for nothing. You know what I mean? I walk through with him sharing. We walk right through. We sit down. We interview the people we want to interview. Next thing you know, we watching the game. A stripper comes sit next to me. I said, "Damn, he should have been here yesterday."
Oh, that's when. Okay, yeah.
I'm like, damn, Philly DMC should have been here yesterday.
Oh man.
Yeah, that was my experience. Yeah. Now, could you tell everybody where they could find you at so they can read your articles and see you on things?
Yeah, right now, you can see my name is DeMichael Cole. You can find me on Facebook at DeMichael Cole. I have a Facebook business page now. It's called DeMichael with a dash Ice Cole Sports. Ice and then Cole, my last name Cole Sports. That's where on Facebook I'm gonna post all my Grizzly stories. My first story is gonna be Monday. Be on the lookout for that. My first story will be Monday, and I'm gonna post all my stories there. I'm gonna post team updates, breaking news things, all of that, as well as my Twitter at DeMichael, my name, C. I post a lot more. Twitter, I'll probably post first, and then I'll come to Facebook after that, because Twitter is where everyone breaks their news. So I have to, got to be quick on my feet on Twitter. Then I'll come to Facebook after that. So, but basically, those are the places. And email DeMichael Cole, just my name, at gmail.com until I get my commercial appeal email set up next week. So yeah, that's where you can find me. And man, I respond. I get back to everybody. And I'm always interested, people's ideas, story ideas, thoughts. I try to bring something different to the table. I ask people for all their type of weird out the box ideas. Because some of them like, nah, that's way too out the box. But some of them it's like, oh look, we might can do something with this that's never been done. I'm open to that. So yeah, that's how you find me, and that's how you keep up with my work, especially for Facebook users. DeMichael with a dash Ice Cold Sports.
That's it. That's cool. I'm definitely gonna be
I
following
put the
you.
link to that Facebook in the comments and his Twitter name in the comments as well.
Thank you.
And on Twitter, you got a blue check. He's the first blue check we ever had on the show. He's the first blue check we had on the show. On Twitter, he has a blue check.
The blue
got
check.
a blue check on the show. We moving on up.
Right. Moving on up to the east side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but this has been a great interview. And again, I want to thank you. Sharon, do you have any last words?
Yes, I do. First of all, thank you again for coming on, DeMichael. I'm very excited, as I said earlier, to see where you go from here. You really have me wanting to come to Memphis. Just talking to you. I've never really wanted to go to Memphis for any reason. Now I want to go to Memphis just to see it, and taste some of that barbecue. I have had to go soft because somebody brought me some from Memphis, but I want to have taste it fresh, not after traveling 10 hours, because y'all are 10 hours away from us.
There you go.
I can get to Philly quicker than I can get to Memphis. It's really weird how this is set up. But thank you so much for coming on. I wish you all the best in all of your endeavors. Very good advice, not only for young people, but for us single mamas and everybody else. You're a very thoughtful young man, and I love it. I love how you do things and how you carry yourself. I'm very impressed. I'm gonna make sure I follow you and continue to follow you. As a writer myself, I will be inboxing you, hitting you up about some things, because as again, no matter what your age is, I feel like you can always learn from anybody. You can learn something and help each other and all that. And so that's important as well. The last thing I'm going to leave people with, I try to leave on a positive note, and the positive note I'm leaving with today is just be sure that you never give up. And when I say just be sure, you can question, you can doubt, you can say, I'm not sure, I can really do this. But the one thing you cannot do is you can never give up. My parents both taught us that and told us and raised us. You never give up. If it's something you really want, never give up. Just keep fighting. You know, I can tell you persevere. You're a very determined young man. You know how to persevere through challenging situations, and that's great. And I anticipate that you're going to do a lot of great things. A lot of great things. Nobody's going to hold you down. I just see you just like conquering stuff. Like busting up in the room, boom, with the Jordans on, like, what? I'm here, and you're going to answer my questions. I'm going to get the story, and you're going to read about it and like it. I mean, that's just how I feel right now. So that's my message to everybody out there. Never give up. Just like the Michael never gave up. Don't ever give up. That's my final words, Dennis.
Listen, I want to thank all the new listeners out there. You know, make sure y'all go and click the subscribe button to subscribe to the Ignorant Thinker podcast on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. We're LinkedIn, mostly so TikTok. We're on most of your social media. So, and also make sure that you join
the Side Jawn group.
And make sure you join the Side Jawn Facebook group and turn all your notifications on. So you'll know each and every Saturday morning you can listen to us because we have more interviews to come and we got more great things that's going. Also, if you wanted to hear this show and you missed it, you wanted to hear it, you can also listen to this on Apple iTunes, Google, Spotify, and all other platforms that you listen to for podcasting. It's under the Ignorant Thinker podcast. It should be up within the next 2 hours. So I want to thank y'all very much for that. And for my final words, the one thing that I learned out of all of this today is to never stop working hard and always keep your connections available. You never know who you're going to bump into. You know what I mean? I met Michael Cole from Out Your League Sports. I met Out Your League Sports working at Walmart, and he just seen me. He seen me working at Walmart and said, "Oh, you Ignorant Thinker podcast?" And from there we clicked, and then that's how I met Michael Cole. And like I said, you never know who you're gonna bump into and what's gonna happen. So always keep your communications open and keep working hard and doing what you're doing. And you know, this is the network where you have to use your network. That's how it goes. Thank y'all for listening. God bless. Great day.